go. So, hey everybody, how's it going?
Good.
All right. Good. I'll just lead off because I got one little update here. So, talked to the commissioner's office today and was told that we can have Khalil Lee report to minor league camp on March 2nd. So he'll report to minor league camp on March 2nd. So nothing else to kind of add on that. That is ongoing investigation. That's it.
What was the change there from the original plan?
I have nothing else to say. So it's, it's in MLB's hands.
As you walk around camp, what do you think of the team that you've assembled here?
Really excited to watch them go and see how they do, and feel good about the roster that's been put together and kind of the depth behind it, and excited to watch some of the young guys. I think a lot of people are feeling that way, so just excited to watch them in their habitat.
Does Verlander set a tone here that makes you say, wow?
Yeah. I mean, look, when you're bringing in guys with that kind of resume, having won some championships and some personal awards, that's always a good thing. And watching him and Max, just, they're both consummate professionals. And that's not to say that Jose Quintana and a lot of people have some accolades and some service here. So I think that's a good thing for our organization. It's a good thing for the younger players here too. And we're excited about the club.
Billy, when you talk about your excitement to see some of the young kids, just how important do you think, even though it was a short amount of time for Beatty and Vientos and Alvarez, was the experience of just being up here for a little bit last year?
I mean, one of the things we always talk about is a growth mindset, and I think a lot of our players embody that, and I know those young players do. They're sponges. They're soaking in everything they can, whether it's their experiences around the coaches, or experience around the other players, whether it's what they glean from Jeff McNeil or Lindor or Nimmo or Alonso or Escobar, around the diamond. They're able to learn. They're able to kind of see routine and see how those players prepare, and they're taking a lot away from those experiences, and they'll learn more here in camp. And they're actually, if we want to talk about the glass half full side of the WBC, selfishly from the Mets perspective, those guys are going to get more opportunities. They're going to get a chance to play more, and that's a good thing. So excited to watch them do their thing.
What are the plans for Ronnie Mauricio defensively this spring?
He'll be at shortstop, and he had a really good winter ball. He's logged a lot of plate appearances. Maybe if you add up last year's plate appearances to the winter ball plate appearances, I think we're approaching 800. I mean, he's over 750 plate appearances. So he's a big, strong kid, but his fuel tank. We're aware of the fuel tank right now, and so we'll just watch him.
Just to clarify, that's exclusively shortstop all the time?
Yeah, he'll play exclusively shortstop. Maybe if there's a game situation that comes up, Buck might slide him to third because he did it a little bit in winter ball, but that's going to be more out of necessity than no.
From a player development perspective, when a guy like him, he's a shortstop, he's blocked at the major league level. How do you decide when to broaden his defensive horizons?
Rely on our scouting department. I rely on our analytics department, and I rely on our coordinators. Miguel Cairo and I have talked about that a number of times. Miguel and I have a long history together, and so we've had some conversations on that, and we'll just keep getting updates throughout the season.
Francisco Lindor said he's excited to work with Carlos Beltran. But how do you have Beltran working with players in that kind of way that maybe doesn't step on coaches' toes?
Yeah, I mean, Carlos and I talked about that, even at the end of January when we started talking about this role together, and he'll come in, he'll understand what players are working on. That'll kind of be his first order of business when he kind of connects with the major league team, or if he connects in Syracuse or Brooklyn or Port St. Lucie or wherever, is check in with that coach, understand what's going on. He'll be connected with our coordinators and player development too. So I would say a large portion of his role is going to be supporting the development side, and I always say that development continues at the major league level too. So never stop developing, and so he'll contribute on that. side, but also, perhaps a little bit of the evaluative side, where I might have him see an amateur hitter or two, or three, in advance of the draft, or maybe even somebody that we're thinking about internationally. So, but we'll learn a lot from each other, and I'm really glad to have his perspective. And sometimes I talk about diversity of thought in a room, try to walk around a problem all the way, and so Carlos will be able to provide that for our baseball group.
Really, for as great as it is to have Steve's resources, obviously, to be able to spend to get what you guys need, does that bring pressures to you in the front office or to a team as a whole? To be the top spending team in the league by such a wide margin.
Yeah, well, I thought an article that came out early February, that Jeff Passan, I thought he framed it pretty well when he talked about, he put it in a rate basis, and he talked about the rate that we are above the CBT comparatively to the rate that the Dodgers were above the CBT in 2015, and then less than the rate that the Yankees were in 04 above that. And so, we're not exactly in new frontier, but with the payroll comes expectations, but we have high expectations for ourselves. So it's nothing added. This team feels good about where they are, and I'm sure that's coming out when you guys talk to the players. So it's really, we just kind of make it all about us and not about the external circumstances or what the payroll is or anything. Just make it about us.
Is it hard to spend that much money? Is there anything difficult about it, or does it make the job easier?
What you're really trying to do is just fill out the roster, and the market's going to dictate, where you have to go with that. So, it's something that we consider, something that we're aware of, something that Steve and I talk about regularly. But ultimately, he made a commitment to the fans, and he and Alex are completely supportive and providing the resources for us to kind of do this stage one of our blueprint while we build the underbelly here to a point where we feel it's satisfactory. And so what does that mean? That ultimately means probably having to take a knee on some trades that are only going to yield a short-term gain. If the trade yields long-term gains, and meaning like multiple years of control, we have the resources to do that now. But for us to do something really short-term, and we just have to kind of crush that urge to do anything impulsive. So that's where our mindset goes while we build this thing for the long haul.
With two aces who are 38 and 39 respectively, do you feel the window is here now and you have to crush through it?
This team's built to win, and we're going to look to do that. And I know that as opportunities arise, my job's to take every opportunity to Steve and kind of walk through the calculus of that. Think about it probabilistically with him, and he thinks in probabilities, so that's a kind of an added benefit of working with him. But walk through those situations with him. He'll take the guidance from our baseball operations team, and a couple times this winter he was getting on the phone with me and Ian Levin, or me, Ian Levin, and Jonathan Strangio or Ben Zosmer, and we would be talking through some opportunities. And so it's a team effort, and but Steve's plugged in with us regularly.
Going into the off season, did you expect to spend at the level that you ultimately did? Or did that just kind of evolve as December progressed?
It just evolved as we started to read the marketplace a little bit more and get a sense of it. And sometimes you'll see this when there's a new CBA rollout. Mm-hmm. You'll see an economic shift a little bit in the marketplace, and so that's what we experienced, because last winter time it was such a sprint from them blowing the whistle, and people were reporting to camp within 72 hours or 48 hours. So, this is what the market bared, and so or bore out, and this is where we are.
Billy, is there anything to learn from the shape of last season, sort of 101 wins and then sort of two bad series at the very end that undid it? Is there anything that you take away from a team building or player preparation profile plan, or is that just bad luck?
No, in general, You want to just have your players prepared to play. Buck does a tremendous job of that. You're going to run into, situations where you're going to play short series, and short series that mean a lot. And I think it was framed pretty well in the postseason with some of the really strong teams from a win-loss perspective, kind of not making it to the very end, or the majority of them not making it to the very end. And it was laid out in some public spaces about the playoff and the format of the playoffs, and that's just what that really means is a short series that is extremely impactful doesn't really yield I guess what the what a longer season will kind of show when you get a little bit bigger sample. So but we know that, and we were built for that with Jake and Max, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, would you build a team any differently for a short series, or is the sort of two aces model the best you can do?
I think the two aces model is a pretty good model. I think you've seen it with other organizations work pretty well, and I can go back to maybe my second year baseball and kind of think about Randy and Kurt, and what that looked like, and then I can go back and some of my own experiences and think about CeCe and Andy, and and Andy was just such a good postseason pitcher, good pitcher in general, but like really good in the postseason and pitching big games, and so it's a model that history has shown can work. So we've kind of set that up again and put together a team we feel good about.
With Francisco Alvarez, how do you balance calling him up when his bat looks ready versus waiting for the complete package and waiting for his defense?
Yeah, I mean, we want to wait for the complete package to be there. If Francisco is on our club, if he makes our team, or if he shows up, we want to make sure we can catch him, because the long-term trajectory for this young man is to be able to catch, and so we have to be able to satisfy that up here. So it would not be a pure DH situation. Now you always put a caveat on things, an asterisk, that if circumstances present themselves, if for some reason something happened to Francisco where he couldn't catch, and he was not going to be able to catch the rest of the season for some reason, right? But that's just speaking in hypotheticals. So I'm just putting that qualifier out there for everybody that if that happens, don't take me back to this moment and say you never said that was going to happen. So, yeah, I'm knocking on wood for sure.
If it turns into a Bryce Harper situation,
who knows? Who knows? So, yeah.
Billy, you came from a World Series or bust organization with the Yankees, obviously, where you're just making the playoffs. For cash now, it never really seems enough, depending on how the season goes. I mean, are the Mets, based on the roster you guys have put together and the money that you guys have spent, are you guys a World Series or bust organization now too, you think? I know GMs don't usually like to characterize that because of the way the playoffs are, but
I'll just say we feel like we have a really strong roster, really good team, and we have high expectations for ourselves. Not going to define that publicly. I'll let the people that watch us, the supporters, and the people that cover us on a day-to-day basis, and you've probably heard me talk in the past about the odds makers, and there's a lot to lose in Vegas if they get those over-unders wrong. So I always pay attention to those, and those will be out late March. We'll see where they forecast us.
Billy, what's your confidence level that those 2 months you had Darren Ruff were kind of an aberration, and did you put serious thought into upgrading that right-handed DH?
I mean, we're always open to opportunities in the marketplace if they present themselves. But, speaking specifically, like when I look at the major league team, this is more global for the winter time. But when I look at the major league team, I'm looking at the 26 roster that everybody sees, on TV or if they come to Citi Field. But I'm also, my eyesight, on a daily basis is at AAA and AA. And when we reached the end of last season, and I talked to scouting personnel, or I talked to analytics personnel, or I talked to player development personnel, or talked to major league coaching staff, and asked the question, if there was something to come from our farm system and impact the major league team next season in the 2023 season, do we think it's going to be offense or do we think it's going to be pitching? What do we think? you canvas that and crowdsource those conversations throughout that staff. And the overwhelming majority was it'll be offense. And so with not a limitless payroll, but knowing what we needed to achieve, directing the resources towards the mound, that's where those conversations kind of led us as a front office. And so that didn't stop us from having conversations. Obviously, bringing Brandon back, bringing Omar Narvaez in to kind of balance out a platoon behind the plate. Going to grab Tommy Pham. So when there was needs or areas that we thought could upgrade, at a reasonable clip, we looked at it. But there was quite a bit of work to do on the pitching side, and that's why the majority of our focus or our resources went in that direction.
Senga mentioned the other day that you might be able to shed some light on whatever was concerning in his physical.
Yeah.
What can you share in terms of what that was?
I appreciate him saying that. And then I went to him and I was like, we don't have to say this. And so we're not going to. Ultimately, I will not talk about things that we gather or learn when we get a medical or do a physical or any of those things. But know that if there's a workplace injury, we'll talk about the workplace injury. But if not, I'm not going to disclose anything.
More broadly, what is your just overall sense of, obviously you signed him, so there's a sense that he's healthy. What is your confidence that will remain?
I mean, the player's on the contract with us, so clearly he, we have wording that the player has to pass a physical in the sole satisfaction of the club. We were satisfied with what we heard, and we're able to talk to him about and ultimately get worked out. And so I'm just excited to see him compete. I've been around a lot of pitchers from Japan, players from Japan in my time, and so I know all of the variables that kind of get introduced to them, whether it's mound and slopes and dirt of the mound, strike zone, length of lineup, travel. In Japan, you don't jump time zones. Not really a flight greater than 2.5 hours. And so all of these, ball, there's these like 5 elements, strike zone, there's like 5 elements that are consistent. And then you have just the lifestyle elements that anybody would go through. And so we're going to do our best to support him in every which way we can.
When it comes to Beatty, is it a similar situation to Alvarez in that you want him to be able to defend properly at third base and have a high level before you bring him up?
Got to play defense here. Got to play defense. I mean, we have a big ballpark, and so I think that was probably demonstrated last year by some of the personnel decisions that we made. That defense is important and it's critical. I mean, if we're going to play championship caliber baseball, we have to be able to be great in all areas, in the batter's box, in the field, on the mound, starting and relieving.
To what degree did Beatty improve defensively over the offseason?
The early reads I'm getting from Joey and Miguel is that, there's some agility improvement that happened. So that tells me that he did a lot of the conditioning programming that was given to him in the wintertime. And, when I was talking earlier about the younger players kind of soaking in their experiences and soaking in things from, what they learned, last August or September, it's that heightened awareness of, wow, these guys really take defense, seriously. So I think that's those are the things that are standing out, at least as we sit here on early February or early camp.
Take a look at him in left field at all in camp, you think?
No.
Is Vientos just on the 2 corners defensively for you?
Yes.
Where do you think he ends up ultimately defensively?
Who?
Vientos, I mean.
Somewhere between first and third.
Plus, it's all the space.
It's 2 positions.
Billy, how do you view the bullpen as far as, I know you mentioned you wanted about 5 high leverage guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those other spots, is it kind of an open competition during spring training for those
Yes.
spots?
Yes, that'll be a competition that I'm paying a lot of attention to. We're really interested to see a number of the players that we went out and acquired Yeah, having 5 high leverage relievers, I think what it generally allows you to do, not every single day, but you hope every day, is you hope that every single day you have 2. So if you're playing a long stretch of games, that if you can have 2 high leverage relievers, on any given night, then it puts you in a good spot. And I think when you have 5, you can generally answer that. I think if you have 4, you might have to roll into a game with only 1, and so that's going to push guys into some roles that maybe they haven't pitched in that much. So I like to have 5 if it can be done, and then we do have to live through roster churn. I mean, that's a reality. As you go through the season, you're going to have to make moves, and I think we probably made a lot of transactions last year. I don't know, but so having those 5 guys is important to us.
Billy, when you hear that other franchises are unhappy with how much the Mets spend, does that matter to you or concern you? Is it something you have a response to?
Yeah, nobody's called me and told me that. So I just do my job, and if Steve says put together the best team we can and gives us the resources to do it, I do it.
You've heard that sentiment, though, yeah?
Nobody has called me and told me that.
Yeah.
No.
MLB started an economic reform committee.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Who runs pro scouting for you guys, front office wise?
Jeff LeBeau was our director of pro scouting. He was last year.
What happened with Bryn?
I'm not going to talk about employee personnel matters.
All right. Thank you, Billy.
Good?
Thank you.